you all know what the trustees do. You've seen it written down. We're the custodians of the financial assets and the physical real estate assets of the diocese. And I've always liked the idea of being a custodian. I think of myself coming with a rake and a broom on my shoulder and a bottle of Windex and just trying to make things a little bit better. But there's something that's not written down that when I became a trustee, I was admonished by the chancellor that I should keep in mind. She said, look, it's Ann Foster. She says, look, you have to take care of the day-to-day things, and you have to take care of the quarterly performance and so on. But above that, you need to take the 100-year view of the diocese. And the more I thought about that, she tells all of us that, and it's so right. And I'll get to that in just a minute. This afternoon, Bishop Wright, during the business meeting, said a couple of things about the diocese which really struck me and were really apropos, I thought. He seemed to become very animated and very happy when he talked about the strength and the stability of the Diocese of Delaware. And I so endorsed that. And I got thinking about it, and I said, I have my list of the top characteristics in our bishop, and I think I would put strength and stability probably 1 and 2 as a trustee. And we all probably have our top 5 or 10 characteristics about Wainwright. Mine go on. Number 3 would be kindness. Number 4 would be faith, really unshakable faith, that everything will be all right and will work out correctly. And my 5th one is that he has a brilliant intellect. And we see that in every meeting that we attend, and it's melded with all these other characteristics. And then number 6 on my top 5 list is that he really embodies this 100-year view. And I think maybe that's where Anne picked this up when she started admonishing the rest of us as to how to think. And I'll give you just 2 examples from my service on the trustees where I've seen this. Both of them are projects which began at or near the time I joined the trustees about 10 years ago, and have just now been concluded with very happy and good results. And the first is the Grove property at St. Thomas in Newark. It's a beautiful, those of you who have not seen it, it's a beautiful tree-filled, expansive lawn next to St. Thomas. And they were becoming kind of hemmed in by the growth of the University of Delaware. Parking that they used to take from the university wasn't being possible anymore, and so on. And there was just a lot of incursion. And the people of the parish, would like to have had this grove, but didn't see how it was possible to manage it. And under Bishop Wright's guidance, over the years that went by, including the financial crisis and so on, we charted a way forward until such a fire took root in the parish. And they really got into this program, the Forward in Faith program, and found a way to take on the ownership of this Grove property. And in fact, they now, as of last month, own it outright because of this great upwelling of vigor and warmth within the parish. And it's done wonders for the parish. And I put this down in large part to Wainwright's leadership of this process. And now future generations, I'm telling you, the 100-year view, future generations of St. Thomas parishioners will walk among the big trees and they'll picnic on the grassy spots. The 100-year view. Camp Arrowhead is my second example, and specifically the easement that was just concluded last year with the state of Delaware. It was a program that started out back in the mid-2000s probably, and Rufus Miller, our dear friend, was instrumental in kind of keeping the interest going, and when it looked like it might be a really good idea to try to do an arrangement with the state in which they were offering to take some of the wetlands from the camp that were unusable by the camp, and in return give Camp Arrowhead some higher ground where the kids could camp, and it was a much better area for the kids. It seemed like a good idea, and Bishop Wright very adroitly and very wisely put together a working group, a blue ribbon group from all around the state to study the feasibility of this and to see if we could make it happen. And again, over at least a decade, this process went on and on and on till the easement documents were signed And the camp now has access to this wonderful camping space, and the state has the wetlands that can protect them. A really nice side benefit of this is the state paid the camp for the future development rights, and the camp's endowment was increased by over $1 million. So an incredible outcome, won by perseverance, insight, bringing the right people together, and taking the long view. Now, it's good that the camp has the money, but their wish list of very worthy things is growing all the time. The camp, as you may know, has had one record year of enrollment after another recently, culminating in last year over 1,100 kids from Delaware and surrounding areas attending camp, fully 10% under some kind of scholarship. And so the list is long of things that need to be done. The dining hall, the wastewater that Pat mentioned a little while ago, they have to deal with a wastewater situation. They need a new storage area. So, Walt and the other camp managers have said for years that one thing they'd really like to have is a gathering spot where all the campers and all their parents and so on could be undercover in an open air structure for meetings and especially the end of session send-offs. And so it's on the wish list, but there's other things in the way or ahead of it. And so here's where we come to the particular thing I want to mention to you. This is also, you've probably also heard from Bishop Wright that he's really not interested. We're not going to entertain the idea of any going away gifts. Well, this is where these two things come together. The trustees have unanimously and very enthusiastically agreed to grant some money to the camp to bring the construction of this structure, which will provide a gathering space for all the camp, rain or shine, and allow some wonderful things to open up at the camp. And so the grant of money on behalf of the diocese will allow the construction to proceed of the Wainwright Memorial Pavilion. Can you show the slide? We know the Wrights are downsizing, and so but we had a little artist's rendering drawn up that they can take with them to their townhome in Philadelphia. So Holly, you and Wayne, hope it'll fit, hope it goes with the decor.
This is just the best, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
This is just the best. The first time that I went down to Camp Arrowhead, after I became bishop, I walked around with Walt. This was 19 years ago. And he said, wouldn't it be great if we had a pavilion? And I was worried I might leave this on the table. But this is just the best, and it is so needed. I was involved in running a camp in Virginia in my early years of ministry, and this will be such an addition and enhancement to this great treasure for our diocese. And we're so incredibly honored. I'm also so grateful, that my mom was able to come up. She and my dad, our family, such an important example to me of the importance of church and the life of faith in our family, and the importance of a church in a community, and how faith changes people's lives. wonderful that Parker could come back, and Holly. Tonight you'll hear more from them tomorrow, but how grateful I am for your love and support. Now I want to tell you just very quickly a story about how we got here. Everyone has talked about, and those who were here then remember the 17 ballots that it took to elect me as bishop. It's not the record. It took 36 to elect Bishop Kinsman, okay? It's not the record. But after the first diocesan convention, I thought about it, prayed about it, and thought, I think the thing to do will be for me to withdraw from the election. And that will simplify it and move the diocese along. So I called Rod Wells, who was, along with Tempe Steen, co-chairs of that search committee. Really, Rod, a great friend and wonderful priest who led that search committee. And I called him and I said, Rod, I've given a lot of thought, I've prayed about it, and I've decided that I'm going to withdraw from the election. There was a pause, and Rod said, you can't do that. And I'm like, Rod, what do you mean I can't do that? I just told you I'm withdrawing. He said, you can't do that. He said that if you do that, you're going to take away from the Holy Spirit the opportunity to do something good. We don't know what that will be, but you have to stay in the election. I said, Rod, that is not fair. Bring the Holy Spirit into this. But I still wasn't sure. So I went home and I said to Holly, I said, what do you think? And she said, she looked at me and she said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, to tell you the truth, I said, we really don't know that much about Delaware. I mean, we had never lived here. We only made some very brief visits here. But I sure do love the people. And it has been that way every single day that we have lived here. Every single day. Now, one of the other great honors that, for me, personal honors for me, happened just a week and a half ago. I want to read you something. Now, 19 years ago, when I was elected, the next week, there was an article in the Wilmington paper. Says, Delaware Episcopalians elect a man with varied background as bishop. But this is what they wrote. This is what they wrote. I won't read all of it, but this is what they wrote. When the Reverend Wayne P. Wright becomes the 10th Bishop of Delaware, he will inherit an office that is rich in spiritual leadership and activism in the state of Delaware. The Right Reverends Cabell Tennis, Quentin Primo, William Clark, Brooke Mosley, and Arthur McKinstry, to name a few, were not only spiritual leaders to the state's 12,000 Episcopalians, but also spoke out on issues of importance. The Episcopal Diocese of Delaware is diverse, and its leader must be comfortable with urban and rural backdrops, whites, ethnic and racial minorities, and people with conservative and liberal theologies and secular philosophies. Let me tell you, that's true. Then they go on to say, which I love, then they go on to say that it took several rounds of balloting to elect Reverend Wright, which illustrates the diocese's broad range of opinions and how exacting its church members are. We all joined with everyone in Delaware in welcoming Bishop-elect Wright to our state. So, just to tell you about the greatness of the spirit of people here, and how important I think that witness is, especially today. One afternoon, I got in the car to go down to the General Assembly to testify on an issue of great personal importance to me and to our church. An issue at that time that was controversial and of which there was much divided thinking in our state. So I walked into the Senate chamber with my prepared remarks to speak. And as I walked in, there was a good friend and a member of one of our parishes seated on the other side of the chamber. He saw me and he walked over and he said, "Bishop Wright, what are you doing here today?" And then it dawned on him that we were on exactly opposite sides of this important issue. And our friendship deepened from that day. And I can say that that person, with whom I still disagree about most things, but am united in our love for Christ and of this place that is our home. So I was just really, really humbled a week and a half ago when I showed up at St. David's Church for the final of the 3 receptions. And Brad Hinton, the rector, was there, and I walked in and I said, "Okay, Brad, here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to have the reception for a while, and then I'm going to talk, and then da-da-da." And he looked at me and said, "It's not going to be like that tonight." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's not going to be like that?" "It's not going to be like that. The governor is here and he wants to give you an award." And so, just as I am incredibly honored that you will bless Camp Arrowhead, future generations of young people who will come to Camp Arrowhead, I personally was incredibly blessed when the governor gave me this award, the Order of the First State. And thanks for just as I have been so honored and blessed to serve as bishop here, I've also been honored and grateful to be a citizen of the state of Delaware.